Welcome to See Social Differently, a podcast brought to you by Sprout Social, where we talk about one of our favorite topics, seeing social differently. I'm Alicia Daitner, and today I am riffing with Joe Huber, Sprout's Community Strategist, on the importance of community. If you're a member of our community spaces, Joe's name and voice might be familiar to you. Joe, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Same. We're going to dive right in because we have a lot to cover and we don't have a ton of time. I wish we could chat forever, and we are both chatty people. We know it. So we'll try to stay on track. If you could sum up your role at Sprout in a few words, what would it be?
Sure. I always tell people that there are three main functions to any community strategist job. That's to connect customers to one another. Your job as a community strategist is to build community, and that means you're taking people who use the product and linking them up. It's linking people up with the brand as well, so making sure that they are in touch with people at Team Sprout, and that means everybody from different departments. We market to marketers, so helping people find the right kinds of people at Team Sprout where they can get their answers. And then the last thing is educating customers, which doesn't always mean that I'm the person educating the customer. I know a lot less about social than a social media professional, so that's finding the right social professionals to come on, do events, do different talks, and share their knowledge, and that's my job.
To back us up just one beat. Our listeners have already heard us use the word community several times.
Yeah,
and
it's going to get said a lot. It's
going to get we're just big community heads over here. But for me, when I hear the word community, I think of a couple different things. I think of the analog version. So my neighborhood or my friends in my running crew, those are community spaces to me. Mm-hmm. But then I also think about the digital version of community. And if I push myself to think about it, if my neighborhood is my analog version, the Facebook group that my neighborhood uses to connect is the digital version. I would love to get your take on this because there's sort of a beauty in the dynamism of community, but it's also really broad. So how would you define this sort of capital C community or the concept that we're talking about today?
Yeah. First of all, I think community is going to get defined a lot of different ways, and it just kind of always is. The way I define community is essentially a group of people with one common interest or goal coming together, networking together, and that can be with a brand, and doing so without a prompt. And I think that's the biggest thing is there's a big difference between an audience, which I think a lot of people say like, okay, well, I have a Twitter community, and it's really your audience. You're just talking to them, they're talking back and engaging with you, but you're prompting them. Every single conversation that comes out of that is a prompt. A community, though, is where you don't necessarily have to tell somebody, hey, engage with me, because they're there to engage. And that's the biggest gap and biggest difference between an audience and community. And with community, it's a group of people with a common interest or goal coming together, networking, and doing so without needing a prompt.
That's such a excellent distinction because I do hear that a lot, Instagram community, Twitter community, but there's the distinction between your audience and a community is an important one, especially for brands and businesses. That's almost something that I hadn't even thought of until now. So look at you. You're upholding your role of educating even on this podcast. Tell me more about why that distinction is important when it comes to business insights from a community. Because if you have your people talking amongst themselves, that is probably going to yield a different type of information than if you're giving them something and watching their response.
Yeah. And this kind of goes to like social listening, right? Like where the biggest difference is if you're not there for every single conversation, people are going to talk about things that you're not thinking about, because if you're looking at a business insight, if you're a marketing leader, right? Like a big thing for you is how can we actually find out what people want?
Yeah.
Because whenever you're leading a conversation as a brand, you are, whether or not you mean to, you are probably influencing that decision in some facet or form because they know you're there. They know you're watching, right? That's why like research is such a tricky thing, because when you put a focus group together, if you're asking questions, you're asking leading questions, whether or not you mean to. And if they know you're present, they're going to answer those things based on the fact that you're there. And with community, they can be talking about you. They know you might be watching or listening, but at the same time, they don't care because they're there for one another. And they're going to tell people, hey, this is why I use this thing. And you'll get more candid feedback on your business and on your either your business model, the tool itself, the platform you're using, if you're a consumer packaged good, why they hate the color that you just added. They'll tell you exactly what you're thinking, exactly what they're thinking. And so that's the biggest get from any business is this voice of customer that is a lot more unfiltered.
Mm-hmm. Very organic. And I think about some of the spaces where I'll engage with a brand or business not realizing that I'm in a community. Like it's this sort of flexible walled area. One example I can think of is that I posted a review on, I won't say the brand's site, but I posted a review after purchasing something, and it was not a 5-star review. And I immediately got a customer service representative emailing me, asking me, like, I'd love to know more about this and see if I can help you. And I was not only astounded by that customer service, but also I was posting that to be in community with other users or other purchasers. And instead, I found myself in community with that brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Which can be jarring. And just a note for marketing leaders, community is not an invitation for you to be a part of every conversation either. That's not the point of community. So if you see some like reviews, that's review marketing. That's a basic function of that role, is to see that review. But if I were to post something and I was just like, obviously when you're posting a review, it's a little different. But if I went to like someone's Facebook group or a community space and pitched something where I said like, hey, this wasn't great, that's not always an invitation for you to go be like, hey, how can I fix it? Right? Because sometimes people just want to talk.
You've mentioned leaders a couple of times, and I would love to know like what your hot take is when leaders invest in community, but do it in that authentic way. And when I say invest in community, it's, to your point, it's not like community overlord, responding to everything, reacting to everything. What is the benefit to leaders investing in community, and what happens when they don't?
Sure. So when marketing leaders choose to invest in community, which is where we'll start, because we're going to hope that everybody here just really gets it. And
100%.
And you love it. When you invest in community, the thing that you're going to get is, one, a deeper connection and understanding of your customers, the people who use your tool. And I'm not talking about customers in the sense of the nameless, faceless mass of people that you have in Salesforce where you're looking at the data. I'm talking about the actual human beings who use your product or your platform. Or, if, like, again, because this works for every industry. If you're a consumer packaged good brand, if you make cereal, you need to know the people that are buying and purchasing your product.
Yeah.
And when you can understand why they're actually buying your product or your tool or your good or your service, then now you're able to actually create something that's beneficial and meaningful to them. For SaaS platforms, we're a business-to-business software as a service platform. That's what Sprout is, right? Like, we're looking at it from the perspective of social media managers. And I look at that and say, how can I make you a better social media professional? That's my goal as a community professional. And it makes it a lot tougher to walk away from using a brand or a tool or a product or a service. And so that's what you get. You get people who care about your brand and care about the people who work for your brand. You gain so much more than just someone feels good and wants to talk to somebody else. It's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, and that informs so much. That can inform so much of your marketing strategy. It can inform your sales strategy. It can inform your hiring strategy. I can just see it having cascading impacts, all because you started listening to people who are having authentic conversations about you, but not necessarily directly with you.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So if you could encourage listeners to take one action around community, what would it be?
So I think a lot of times in these kinds of conversations, people are like, get started. And that's their first bit of advice. And it's like, that's good advice for a lot of things. Before you build your community, understand the people who are your customers. And that's what it is understand the people that use it, understand the different personas, the different people, and the different subsets. And then what you can do is you can then build really, really unique, strong spaces for them to meet other people and help them break through their personal goals, help them break through their professional goals, help them grow and develop as a person, and take you and your brand out of it. And once you start doing those things, then you can effectively build community spaces. But I wouldn't just say like just launch a community today. I would say take some time, interview customers, and really, really, truly understand what they want. And when you understand that, then you can go.
What you keep emphasizing, and I think our listeners will find value in, is that community is this like loosely held structure that you are building for someone else and trying to let it evolve organically and give it guardrails but not hard rules. It's like this very delicate and powerful thing. And I think that's why, like, in your position, you know that because that is your goal. But if you don't have a robust community, it's worth understanding that it's not as simple as opening comments and just letting it rip. Like you do need somebody who's thinking about how it can work really well and feel really good for users and get the most out of it.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would say is if you are planning on building community, this is really
Which I am.
This is really uncomfortable for marketing leaders too. Your community professionals work for the customer. They don't work for the brand. They work for the customer, not the
double agent.
And that is horrifying, I think, to a lot of leadership when now you're thinking like, okay, I'm going to make the decision that's going to help our community the most. And those are the things that can feel uncomfortable, but you're going to learn so much. And as a leader, you're going to gain so much knowledge, information, but you're also going to be creating customers that know you care about them.
Yeah, and it might be discomfort in the short term, but it actually builds something really authentic, really valuable, and frankly in service of your brand in the end. So 100%. Lean into the discomfort and you'll see comfortable results. Yeah. That's a little markety of a tagline. I didn't mean to sound like
well, you
that.
work in marketing, so it kind of makes sense. They're marketing people listening to the podcast.
That's so true. We get it. We're all marketers here.
Yeah.
Well, I have one final question for you, and I want to close us out with a community shout out.
Okay. What's
a community space you're loving?
So there's a lot. I love a lot of different community spaces, and obviously, like when I'm in them, I'm looking at them from the lens of, well, this is really interesting and unique. There's the big ones I think everybody looks at are Peloton, Atlassian, HubSpot, Nike. Those are great things to look at. Just what Peloton has done from a community marketing perspective, they work so hard to be there for you and show you that I genuinely think that they're like a phenomenal model to look at, whatever industry you're in. And then Atlassian does a phenomenal job, I think, of working with people and show, like, if you really want to go into like the breakdown of those personas, Atlassian and HubSpot does a phenomenal job. They both do phenomenal jobs of just that community building well. Those would be the ones that I would say go look at those.
Check those out. Know that they didn't happen overnight. Oh. So you definitely you're not gonna be the community forward brand overnight. It takes time, like building any community. And thinking about what other types of community, I know that's those, when I think of those examples, it's almost so big, but even if you're a small brand, a small business, just offering spaces, whether it's, comment threads, whether it's social posts, there are places where community is happening, even if you haven't gotten started with your like big capital C community strategy yet. Yeah,
that's something, the other thing that we always tell marketing leaders, if you don't invest in it, it doesn't matter. It's happening whether you're there or not.
Joe, I think that is a perfect place for us to tie a bow on this conversation about community, which is it's happening whether you know it or not, whether you're paying attention to it or not. So you may as well harness the power of community and start building.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that folks will see and hear your voice in our community spaces if they want to get to know you a little bit better. But appreciate you coming to talk with me today, and I'll see you around.
Thanks so much.